He is the great revelation of the season so far in League One. A guy that no one expected to be performing at this level, at this point. A player who has been gradually progressing through La Masía until this November, when he was called up by the senior Spanish national football team. This is Mundo Maldini, and this is the story of one of the revelations of all Europe this year, Marc, who has emerged. Let's go for it. Marc Casadó was born on September 14, 2003 in Sant Pere de Vilamajor, Barcelona, and from a very young age he was a child who loved sports in general. In fact, football was not always the first option. He first tried handball. Fortunately, after a week and a half of trials with the local team, he decided to return to having it at his feet. He chose football, and his first club was this one we see on screen, the Vilamajor Football Club. At that moment, already at 6 years old, his coaches began to see some unusual things in a 6 or 7-year-old child, in a very low category where, well, children just want to score goals, have fun, and play as forwards or on the left or right wing. But little Marc didn't mind sacrificing himself for the team, and if a goalkeeper was needed because someone got sick, he would step in as a defender, and he always had a bit of that sense of collective responsibility, thinking about the group, which is something he has carried throughout his career at La Masía because he has been captain in almost all the categories he has been in, due to his leadership ability and thinking about the collective. That surprised those coaches, and also that at 6 years old he was the one who best occupied the spaces in the football field. You see, a child who understood that at 6 years old was logically not very normal. The people you see in the picture are two of his teachers at the Vilamajor school. This mural you see painted here was a mural that he collaborated with the rest of his class to paint the school. And they have always said that he was a child who didn't put in too much effort but was very smart. A kid who, well, was mischievous at times, like any child, but in the end always ended up getting good grades. And they have even said that they felt sorry that he didn't pursue a career, because that brain could have done whatever he wanted. But well, I think he continues to show those kinds of things on the field with his tactical intelligence and when positioning himself to make covers. In short, a kid who from a very young age was already quite intelligent in many ways. At 8 years old, Marc left for Sant Celoni, another team in the area, and then he would go through Granollers before signing with one of the most recognized clubs in Catalonia, or rather, one of the most recognized academies in Catalonia, which is DAM, a youth academy specialized in grassroots football, developing young players who, well, many of them have ended up standing out in major first division teams. Here you see Mar wearing the DAM armband, which, as I said, are specialists in grassroots football and have trained players of the caliber of, for example, Gerard Moreno, David Lopez, Ramon Terras, and even Joan Garcia, the current goalkeeper of Espanyol, just to mention a few that we know are currently active. I'm sure there are many more that I'm leaving out. If you know them, let me know in the comments, because honestly, I didn't know they had been there. But as you can see, he wears the Adam armband, meaning he has practically never been without it until he reached the first team, for obvious reasons, because he has always been, or used to be, the kid with the most tactical intelligence and the one with the most collective responsibility in the whole group. And we come to perhaps the most important moment, alongside the one Marc Casadó is currently experiencing, which is his arrival at FC Barcelona. How that signing with the team that was, well, his team since he was little, Dracule, comes about. The whole family is culé, Marc Casadó's family. How does he get to that youth academy? How does he get to La Masía? Well, while playing at DAM, Jordi Rora, who, if you remember, was the assistant coach during Tito Villanova's time, may he rest in peace, in the 2012-13 season, would later become the head of youth football at FC Barcelona, the person often responsible for scouting and ultimately deciding who gets to La Masía and who is left behind. And along with Aurelia Altimira, another person who was at FC Barcelona until 2021, in both cases, they organized a friendly match between the youth teams of DAM and FC Barcelona, and it was in that friendly match that they became completely enamored with Marc Casadó. And above all, again, what they liked most was his tactical intelligence, his positioning on the field, his quality, of course, with the ball. But, again, it was not normal to see that level of intelligence in positioning, that good occupation of spaces in a kid of that age, and they decided he should be part of La Masía. At that moment, they communicated it to the players' parents, who responded with that they had already gone to see the facilities of Valencia for Marc for the youth academy. But logically, seeing that the Heraculo family and the desire of little Marc himself was to play for Barça, they decided to be part of La Masía,
Perhaps the one who has surprised me the most is Casado, and not because of a football-related issue regarding his undeniable quality, which we already knew, that he played football very well and so on. I have been surprised by the physical capacity that Usain is demonstrating, by that punch, by that extraordinary defensive quality he is having in covering, in supporting, in stealing balls. I repeat, not in footballing terms, as we already knew he was very good, but I have been surprised by that defensive capacity, that tactical ability he is demonstrating.
Marc Casadó arrives at La Masía at 13 years old, and look at this phrase from his first coach, Carles Martinez, the person you see in the image next to Messi with little Casado, who is currently the coach of Toulouse in the first division in France. Carles Martinez, who at that time was coaching the Infantil B of FC Barcelona. Notice, a great central midfielder. He is the one who understands that the goal is to progress, sometimes with the ball, but other times by allowing the opponent to score to free up the midfielders. A 13-year-old boy, we repeat that he is good. We are seeing a common trend when investigating this story, and that is that his coaches highlighted his positioning and, as I said, his understanding of the game. Usain Marc Casadó continued to progress through La Masía, went through the cadet team, and in this image you see on screen, he was already in the youth team, lifting one of the 2 cups they won that year, a double, the Champions Cup and the Youth League. And look at this phrase from Oscar Lopez, his coach in the youth team. Marc Casadó demonstrates that the lack of physicality can be compensated with intelligence and maturity, and of course quality on the field, which we know, or that people already knew he had, but well, he was able to gradually incorporate elements into his game that ultimately led him to become the player he is. But notice, again with the captain's armband on the youth team and lifting the 2 trophies they won during that season, and in that year 21-22 under Oscar Lopez, what he incorporated into his life in general is the video room. He spent hours and hours reviewing plays, perfecting the position of central midfielder. And well, in the end, it is shown that none of this is free, but that he, at his young age, has been able to shape his game, also correcting himself through video analysis, which is so important today in modern football. And we move to the 22-23 season, in which he fully enters the dynamics of Barça Athletic under Rafa Márquez, whom he has always considered a coach who gave him everything, but also, reciprocally, because he was fundamental, he was key for that Barça Athletic in the 2 seasons he was alternating with the first team.
For Rafa Márquez, I always have good words for Rafa, to be honest. I think he has been a coach who has marked me a lot, and I believe he demonstrated his level in the team tremendously. I believe he's a coach who helped me always give 100%, because he was a coach who often commented on that, always with his motto.
And in fact, that's where the nickname comes from. That, for example, teammates like Balde have called him, which is the Kimmich, Joshua Kimmich of Barca, because Rafa Márquez was aware of his quality as a midfielder and of his similarity to the German player in playing style. Logically, we are not going to say they are the same, but they have certain similarities with their differences. But Marc Casadó has also played as a right back in the reserve team under Rafa Márquez, playing 11 matches as a right back, and he also did so with Xavi the first time he tried him in a friendly against Olot, prior to a preseason tour. So Marc Casadó has also played in that position, although logically, in my opinion and that of many, Joshua Kimmich's best position is as a midfielder in both cases, for Kimmich and for Marc Casadó, although we haven't seen him at the top level as a right back. In November 2022, Franck Kessié got injured, and the promising midfielder from Barça Athletic, Marc Casadó, came in wearing number 29. It was a rout on April Seco, and the truth is that during that season, well, he practically was not counted on for the first team again, but it is true that he started to participate a lot in training dynamics, and also that he was called up many times, specifically 24 call-ups that Marc Casadó had that season with Xavi, although he played a total of 36 matches with the reserve team, which already gave him much more experience and was essential, as I said, for Rafa Márquez's team at that time. We reached last season, the 23-24 season, the last season of Chao, with that I stay, I leave, I leave, I stay. Xavi Hernandez finally left, but the truth is that for Omar Casadó himself, he has also said and declared on many occasions that they were 2 seasons of learning, with 45 call-ups in which he was practically always on the bench, because he only had 4 matches, none of them complete for Marc Casadó, not even the first ones in the first round of the Copa del Rey 2009. This leads us to think, and he himself has also acknowledged, that it was hard for him to see players like Lamine Yamal, Pau Cubarsí, and Alejandro Balde, much younger in the case of Lamine, Maliku, Barsi, even more so, 16, 17 years old, breaking down the door of the first team. But it is true that we cannot normalize that kind of thing because it is not normal for them to happen. It is not normal for a 16-year-old kid to be ready to play at the top level, especially to do what Lamine Yamal is doing and what he has done in the Euro Cup. It is not normal. So he was burning the stages that really corresponded to him, reaching Barça B for 2 seasons as a consolidated player in Primera RFEF, and then making the jump to the first team this year with Flick. But it is true that I believe this is a bit of a triumph of patience on the part of Mario Casado, because being in 45 call-ups and only playing in 4 matches has made him understand that it is not easy at all to reach that first team. And when he had the opportunity at first, he took advantage of it. And in what way? In this 23-24 season, he didn't play much because remember that Barça, at many moments due to injuries, relied on Christensen as the sole pivot, with Busquets' departure in 2023. Sergio Roberto also played sometimes. Frenkie de Jong was also there when he wasn't injured, of course, and Kai Gundogan ultimately had a very complicated time playing in that midfield. But Xavi, this is something that may seem insignificant, but Xavi spoke with him so that he wouldn't leave the following year, even when he was going to stay. We are talking about that time frame. He spoke with him so that he wouldn't leave Barça the next season, because he was going to be an important player. And then Flick logically reinforced that conviction because he had doubts, and he has spirit and competes well, and this is important.
And wherever he plays, he will perform. He has played as a pivot, as a midfielder. We have used him at times as a centre-back, as a full-back. I believe he is a very versatile player who has spirit, has character, and this is very positive for the group.
When Hansi Flick arrives at FC Barcelona, they obviously tell him that the situation at Barça is not suitable for making many signings, but at that moment, he starts looking in the youth academy, first speaking with Rafa Márquez to get a sense of the situation in the club's first reserve team. Barça Athletic, and quickly the name of Marc Casadó comes up, which, as I said, was a key name for Rafa Márquez in that Barça Athletic. And in the end, Hansi Flick, who had already seen him in many videos, decides to test him in training alongside Marc Bernal. And we saw what happened in the last summer tour. He takes him there and has great matches in that double pivot, Marc Casadó and Marc Bernal, until, well, unfortunately, I'm sure he wouldn't have wanted it to be this way. Long-term injury of Marc Bernal definitively opens the doors for the other Marc Casadó. This past summer, before the tour, Marc Casadó already had interest from clubs like Valencia, Granada, and Lazio in Italy, and he had many doubts. Were somewhat dispelled with the conversation with Xavi because, in a way, he made him see that he was a player for the first team of Barça. But Xavi was leaving and he didn't know what would become of him, until Flick logically arrives, takes him on tour, and he performs as he does in the league. As I said, in the first match in Valencia, he plays alongside Marc Bernal in the double pivot, as he did throughout the preseason, but in the next 2, he is a substitute, until in Vallecas, that terrible injury of Marc Bernal happens, and since then, they haven't been able to take him off the field because he is becoming one of the best players of Barça, if not the best, along with Rafinha, surely the same, Mali, Lewandowski. He is a footballer that no one expected to perform like this, a very tactically intelligent player who occupies spaces masterfully, who is also adding defensive sacrifice, who runs, who fights, who distributes very well, who is not the typical horizontal passing pivot but also passes vertically many times. He has a total of 5 assists in 15 matches, 11:33 minutes, and above all, the feeling that he is a very complete player. He is a pivot, yes, he is performing perfectly in a double pivot, he maintains his position well, but in the attacking third, he also combines very well, and the truth is that he is becoming the revelation of the league in my view.
I think he has helped me a lot to achieve my maximum performance. I believe he has helped me understand many aspects of football, and above all, it is something that I think I already had. But he has helped me a lot to bring out my 100%, to give my best in every training and every match. And I think that this way things can go better.
In the last call-up, during the last break, he was called up by the U21 team for the first time, and now by the senior team for the first time just a month later. So that is the progression of a player whose ceiling we do not yet know, logically for Spanish football. Hopefully he continues like this for a long time and we can see him at the World Cup in the USA, Canada, and Mexico at this level. And that's it for the video, friends of Mundo Maldini. Share, comment, like if you enjoyed it, and we will of course continue on the channel with many things. Nations League, South American qualifiers, which are wonderful, and much more football because it is what we love, of course, on the channel and in the whole community, that you are the best. A hug. Ciao, 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 ciao.